Hit me.
Welcome to the Senior Rehab Podcast,
The podcast for rehab clinicians that want to better serve older adults.
And now, your host, Dustin Jones.
Shorts. Hello, friends. Thank you for tuning into the Senior Rehab Podcast. Today's short comes from David Gillette. He is at Geriatric PT on Twitter, has the website geriatricpt.wordpress.com, and he wrote a post titled Thoughts on Productivity. There's been a recent discussion on the Geriatrics listserv about productivity and a recent PT in Motion article about productivity, which is linked in this post. But you can probably read it anywhere on any discussion forum for rehab professionals. Productivity requirements continue to rise and is making professionals frustrated. I said in a tweet, it makes me sad, angry, and a little scared for our profession. I want to write a bit more on that. First, how productivity is calculated. I work in a facility that calculates productivity based on minutes billed divided by hours present per day, minus any CEU time. If it takes me 30 minutes or 90 minutes for an eval, I bill 30 minutes or 90 minutes. I would take issues with some place that only allows me to bill or account 45 minutes for an eval if it takes me 60 from a professional perspective. In my career, I've worked in 3 skilled nursing facilities or transitional care units where I've done subacute, outpatient, or long-term care and interned in one other, and I've had multiple friends and colleagues who have worked in similar facilities, mostly for the major companies, and the only way I have encountered productivity billing is the way I described above. I can tell you that productivity demands that I have seen, experienced, and heard of take into account the hours paid that you worked, not your vacation time, CEU, etc., and it ranges from 65% to 92%. If anyone else has had a different experience in how productivity is calculated, they can comment on that and the impact on them. Again, I want to comment on what I've seen and experienced. Why it makes me sad. Productivity is often what we are judged by, and it is often all about the money, not about the patient or outcomes. I understand this is a business. See my previous post about the Wall Street Journal article on copious therapy. But seriously, productivity of 94%? To me, that sounds like a company looking at a bottom line with such a myopic view for shareholders that they don't see what they are doing to their staff. Why it makes me angry. What to fit in the minutes left over in the day. Using the productivity calculation above and working an 8-hour day, if you factor out your legal 2 15-minute breaks, who really takes those, and you don't document on your lunch, and you don't overlap patients, which you can do with commercial insurance, but not Medicare. At 65%, you have 138 minutes left. At 70%, you have 114. At 75%, you have 90. At 80%, you have 42. At 90%, you have 48. At 92%, you have 8 minutes. In those remaining minutes, you need to get ready for the day, go between patients. Hopefully, your patients aren't spread out in a large facility. Document to facility and payer expectations, or at least complete what you didn't do during point of service documentation. Return phone calls, respond to emails, talk to families who stop you in the hallway, talk to other disciplines you work alongside, breathe, and wrap up for the day. Bathroom and water breaks are covered during your personal breaks. I forgot to mention staff meetings, which may be factored out for efficiency, but not for productivity. Supervising PTAs and co-signing their notes, waiting for nursing to give meds or finish toileting or dressing, finding patients unavailable due to an MD or NP seeing the patient refusing for a variety of reasons, the patient being out of the facility, finding OT or speech as your patient, and answering the occasional call light, and I'm sure there is more that I'm not thinking of at the moment, all while trying to keep your focus on service, patient satisfaction, and good working relationships, and not allowing your productivity requirements become the focus and becoming self-centered/serving. Would I rather have 138 minutes to do all that or 8 minutes? Some companies use transporters, which helps. There are questionable suggestions and or recommendations I've heard that give me pause in even considering working for a national company that requires the higher levels of productivity. And if a therapist can't achieve those levels, their options would be A, be fired, B, document off the clock, or C, try to find a company more in line with their views. My boss and her boss will probably read this. Brenda and Amy, I love our company, have no issues, have no intention of leaving, and welcome a discussion on how to improve my productivity. Why it makes me scared. We have done this to ourselves, and I see no end in sight. We as therapists have valued and needed a paycheck and not stood up and said enough is enough. And for those that have said enough, someone has always been willing to come behind and take the job, at less pay such as a new grad with their student loans coming due. What can we do? For the benefit of therapists in our profession, refuse to document off the clock. Do not work for companies with productivity standards that are so high that we document off the clock or be unethical in practice. I personally have limited who I work for to companies that put people before profit, people being patients and staff, while still encouraging their therapists to ethically do and be their best. For students interested in geriatrics, I don't give company names that I won't work for, but I offer suggestions of what to look for and questions to ask any employer. However, as altruistic as we want to be, healthcare is a business. Whether big business and answering to shareholders, a la Rehab Care or Kindred, or a nonprofit, you can't run in the red. We as professionals need to determine and stand up for what is ethical, but also be aware that this is a business. Companies, it may help to show us the business numbers for better understanding and buy-in. We need to ethically and legally be as productive as we can. That may be structuring our day better, not checking and or answering emails except at specific times, seeing patients in a geographic sequence to limit getting our 10,000 steps a day by lunchtime, etc. Thinking about using a productivity system or framework at work, getting things done, Six Sigma, Kaizen, etc. Not having non-work discussions during non-break time, trying point of service documentation as much as we can, giving our employers ideas on how to improve productivity to address roadblocks we encounter, etc. I wish things were different and hope things get better for the sake of our patients and our profession. In the meantime, if we are having a difficult time with productivity demands, we need to follow our ethical principles while either working with our employer to see the issues or look for another job that will value us and what we bring to the table, not just the number we generate, and be thankful when we find that job. Sorry for the length of my thoughts and opinions. I would be interested to hear other takes on productivity calculations, how to be more productive, ethical considerations in productivity, etc., be it on a listserv, Facebook, Twitter, or the comment section below. And you can find this post at geriatricpt.wordpress.com and search productivity. Thanks, David. Hit me. I want to thank you for listening to this podcast. The show notes and much, much more can be found at seniorrehabproject.com. I want to encourage you to go there so you can join me and many others in the movement that's changing the face of geriatric rehab. Just go to seniorrehabproject.com, click join, and you'll be able to get access to our private Facebook group, which can basically serve as your virtual mastermind group. You'll get a short and sweet monthly email from me with useful links for you and your patients. And lastly, you'll get 10% off your first purchase from the Senior Rehab store. So all of this can be found at seniorrehabproject.com. And until next time, my friends, do not forget to stay funky.